Hi, everyone. Sorry about that. We are just starting our webinar sorry. Um, Sorry about that, guys. There was just a bit of an issue on my end. Welcome to our webinar, Cambridge and Beyond, Studying Law at Selective UK Universities, hosted by the Red Pen. My name is Avita Vaidya, and I will be hosting the webinar today. We will be hearing from Shraddha Mehta, who is the law expert at the Red Pen. She has a joint honors degree in law and business from the University of Warwick, and she has her LLB from BPP Law School. And we will also be hearing from Amana, who is a first-year law student at the University of Nottingham, and she's going to take you through sort of what the experience is like, applying to these schools and also being a student at the universities. So I'm just going to begin by talking a little bit about the Red Pen and who we are. We're an educational consultancy from India, and we've supported students with all of their higher education goals. 95% of our applicants receive offers from their top 3 universities. We've had students apply to over 25 different countries, and we've secured over $55 million and counting in scholarships. And our students have applied to over 80 different unique majors, from business to STEM to law to medicine and history. So a wide range of expertise at the Red Pen here. Shraddha? I'm also going to talk a little bit about our track record and why I like to think that we have, such a good expertise in a lot of the subjects that we speak about. So we've had over 85 offers from selective universities, including the Ivy Leagues and Oxbridge. And as I said, the majority of our students receive offers from their top 3 universities. And last year alone, we secured over 10 million in scholarships, with students applying to over 350 universities. And this year, these are just our early admits, but we're very excited to announce that, we've had students who've got into incredible universities all over the world, from Cornell to University of Pennsylvania to Georgetown, Northwestern. But even in the UK, we've had incredible admits from UCL, St. Andrews, Warwick, the University of Edinburgh, Manchester, Durham, and these are just to name a few. Very excited to keep hearing from the admits as they continue rolling from the rest of the year. And how do we sort of help our students? That is kind of the key, and I think the unique selling point about the Red Pen. What we focus on is helping students begin early. So starting early is a key part of the Red Pen ethos. We begin as early as grade 8, helping students really explore what it is they like. What do they want to learn? What do they want to study? Maybe they want to develop a skill in a certain area. And we really support them in, exploring whatever it is they like, dislike, and kind of build on these interests. In grade 9, once we've developed that stage, we focus on personalization. So we identify 3 to 4 activities that are important to the student, and we help them build a personal storyline. And this can be like related to law. Maybe it is an interest in history, or maybe it's an interest in figuring out what is the Supreme Court in the United States doing. Let's do a quick project on that. Maybe we look at joining some sort of student government. In grade 10, or year 11, if you're in the UK, we start elevating your application's competitiveness. So this can be doing in-depth projects, this can be research papers, these can be incredibly competitive competitions that you can apply to. It can be really highlighting and showcasing your leadership ability. But what we really want to do in grade 10 is start helping students figure out what is unique about them. Even if you want to study law, maybe you are really passionate about maritime law, and maybe that's what you're really interested in. Maybe you're an avid sailor. So we help you figure out how do you really highlight your interest in maritime law with the sort of activities that you are doing, the skills that you're developing, and the sort of projects that you're undertaking. And finally, in grade 11, we curate your application. We help you figure out what your testing timeline is. We help you look at what interviews you have to do. So maybe we do a little bit of interview prep. And in grade 12, everything kind of comes together and we begin your application process. And we're hoping that by the time it hits now in March that you have your acceptances into your top universities. So this is just a little bit about the red pen. I'm going to let Shraddha kind of continue, and she's going to tell us a lot more about the application process to competitive UK universities when you want to study law. Shraddha?
Great. Thank you, Evita, for that introduction to me, Amana, and the Red Pen. We're happy to have everyone joining online with us today. So I assume there's a lot of interest in studying law, and I just wanted to clarify that today's webinar is going to focus on studying law specifically in the UK. So as you are all here, I think one of the questions to ask yourself is, what is your motivation for studying law? Is it because you have what suits and you think that the practice of law is what Harvey Specter and Mike Ross do in this TV show, which is quite fictional and fictitious, sorry. And it is not really a true portrayal of what the practice of law is like on a day-to-day basis, right? So, and that is some of the parts and exponents that myself and Aman are going to talk about today on this webinar. A second question to ask yourself is, in which country do you see yourself practicing as a lawyer? Law is a very country-specific subject because the law in each country is tailored and interpreted and implemented based on the needs of that country and within countries as per the state as well. And so it is not really a directly transferable degree. So if several of you are here from India and you're thinking about moving back to India and practicing as a lawyer there, you are going to have to take the All India Bar examination to convert your UK law degree into one that is applicable in India as well. So these are just some of the questions you need to ask yourself. Otherwise, is your motivation for studying law that you want to make an impact on society, that you care about safeguarding rights because you want to speak up for marginalized communities? Is it because you have a passion for justice, or is it because you are interested in the financial rewards of being a corporate lawyer? So these are all very valid reasons for studying law, but it is important to know, again, that the study of law is very different to the practice of it. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about that now. So in the UK, there is a difference between two types of legal advisors. So you have barristers. Barristers represent clients in court. They advocate on behalf of them in courtroom advocacy in various fields such as criminal law, family law, commercial law. Barristers in the UK are often self-employed or they work in chambers, right? And then the other side of that is solicitors. Now, solicitors engage in a broader range of legal services. They work in law firms, often in government agencies, and they deal with a different aspect of law, such as taxation law, mergers and acquisitions, wills and probate, are the kind of legal services that solicitors will give you advice on, right? They can also be sole practitioners, but more often than not, you will find them in a corporate law firm. And of course, one of the biggest differences is that barristers wear wigs today, even today in court, to make that distinction and have that respect for courtroom advocacy. So that is something you need to be aware of also, because in the UK, the path to becoming a barrister and the path to becoming a solicitor are kind of different. There is a lot to talk about in that respect. So, for example, students no longer need a law degree, a 3-year LLB degree in the UK to practice as a solicitor. So you must be thinking, what? Without a law degree, I can become a lawyer? So yes, you can become a lawyer, but only the solicitor kind. If you want to become a barrister, you still do need your 3-year LLB law degree from a recognized UK university, right? The requirements to becoming a solicitor are a little bit more complicated. What is required is an undergraduate degree in any subject. It can be law or non-law related. So you can be a math graduate, an engineering student, an art history graduate, and still go on and apply to becoming a solicitor in the UK. This is a relatively recent change that the Solicitors Regulation Authority has brought about in the UK. It was implemented only in September 2023. So all the processes are still starting up now, and UK universities are still modifying their law degree as per the new requirements. So once you have an undergraduate degree, you also need 2 years of qualifying work experience that can be broken up into 4 different 6-month periods. You also need to pass a character and suitability requirements. And then the biggest thing you need to do is then pass the solicitor's qualifying examination, the SQE, which is centralized exams that take part in 2 separate stages. And having passed this is what actually qualifies you to then becoming a solicitor in the UK. Now, again, this is a lot of information. I really do encourage you, if this is something that you're thinking about, that you get in touch with us at the Red Pen so we can talk to you more in detail about the differences between becoming a barrister and a solicitor. Right. If you do decide to go for the 3-year undergraduate law degree, and I'm going to let Amana talk to us here, there are 7 foundation subjects that you need that are covered and you need to study compulsorily in the 3 years that you're studying the law. So there's contract law, law of torts, constitutional administrative law, equity and trusts, land and property law, criminal law, and even though Brexit has happened, EU law as well. Amana, do you have anything to say about these subjects?
Yeah, so since I'm in first year, we don't really have optional modules yet. We only have 4 core modules, which are contract, tort, public law, and introduction to law and legal theory. And I think I'd definitely say that even though it might seem a little boring, I think contract law is definitely my favorite. It's a lot of reading, but it's so interesting to see, how contracts are formed and how they're breached.
So on average, how much reading would you say you have to do every week for these subjects?
So the UK follows like a seminar and tutorial system. So they usually have up to 8 hours of reading for each tutorial, and they're like 4 tutorials a week.
Per week. Okay, that's a lot of reading. So you really need to be passionate about reading.
Yes, definitely. You definitely have to.
You're a good law student. Okay, great. And so let me talk to you also about some of the elective modules that these various universities offer, and they range from family law to international law, legal history, human rights law. At Warwick, we also had Islamic law, competition law. So there's a whole range of varied interests to explore based on your passion and your interests, right? So that's great. In addition to studying these core subjects, I believe you are also studying, Amana, and what I remember is principles and concepts, how laws are interpreted, how they're implemented, how they're created to kind of a very fluid society, and that they're constantly changing, right?
Yeah, I think it's like definitely interesting to see, because I think before you start doing your law degree, you only have like the impression of law that you see in like TV shows. But when you actually study the subjects, you see how, like basic core principles of, law, like justice and equality and equity are like really applied in real life. And I think it's also interesting to see how they're applied into the law, because even after Brexit, you see how much of EU law still has like a hold on, UK law.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. So there are obviously various career paths that kind of transcend, traditional legal advising, and they range from, of course, you'll be a solicitor, barrister, but you can be in the public sector, international dispute resolution, arbitration, academia, management consulting, government politics as well. So I think what advice that I would also give as a previous law student is that law in itself, the study of law, gives you so many transferable skills that you can apply to any other career path that you may be thinking about. The analytical and critical thinking skills that you get from analyzing cases and statutes, and the drafting of contracts can help you in business and finance, in policy making, right? There's a lot of writing and reading and research, as Amana mentioned, long essays that can open up career opportunities in journalism, in PR, in communications. There's also problem-solving aptitude that you're developing as you are analyzing cases and scenarios that can help you in entrepreneurship, that can help you in project management, senior corporate management positions as well. So I think it is important to know that maybe you do study law in the UK, but if you do decide to move or you have a change of heart, that these skills are very much transferable, they're very versatile, and they will help you in various other career paths as well and fields. So, okay. So let us talk a little bit about the application requirements in the UK. So not all universities require students to take an admissions test in law, which is called the LNAT, the Law National Aptitude Test. Now, it is called the Law National Aptitude Test for various competitive universities such as Oxford, Cambridge, King's College, Durham, UCL, SOAS. You see the names over here. Then you have several highly reputed other universities that don't require the LNAT, such as the University of Nottingham, where Amana went, the University of Warwick, where I went. So these are just two examples. What we advise students is if you are aiming for the more competitive universities with the LNAT, you choose about 2 or 3 universities that require the LNAT, but then you opt for 1 or 2 out of the 5 that you can apply to through UCAS that do not require the LNAT, just to keep it safe in case the LNAT does not go as planned. On the next slide, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about what the LNAT exam actually is and how many times you can take it and so on. There are also no specific required subjects, as you would have for engineering, for example, they require you to take math. For law, they don't necessarily want you to have English or history or a language, but students typically do have these subjects, right? And I think it depends. It doesn't depend on which curriculum you're doing. So you can be doing the Indian curriculum, the HSC, the CBSE, or you can do the International Baccalaureate, the IB, or A levels. I think Amana can jump in here and say what subjects she took and why she found them helpful, or if she has advice and wishes she had taken other subjects instead that would have been more helpful.
Right. So I did the IB program. So I did English, language and literature at the higher level, economics at the higher level, and psychology at the higher level. And I think I would definitely recommend doing the IB, not necessarily for the subjects, because other than English, I don't think that makes a big difference to a law degree. But doing the extended essay was really helpful in English because it taught me how to write, college style essays and how to, use secondary sources and use citations, which I think is really helpful as a college student.
And the extended essay, if I remember from my time, is a 4,000-word essay, right?
Yes, it's like
that
an
requires-
independent research project where you can do it in a specific subject and you have an advisor where you choose a topic and you work on it for the duration of the 2 years.
Right. And that extended essay, the skills you developed have helped you. Have you had to write really long
Yes.
essays?
Definitely, because in law, some of my modules have coursework as their final assessments, which is basically just an essay. So I think it really helps in that, how to write the essay, how to format it, and how to cite it correctly.
Okay, coursework versus exams, you mean? So
Yeah.
some of them are only tested on coursework.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. So another requirement, of course, is strong academic performance overall. They are looking for students who are intelligent, who have intellectual curiosity, who have a passion for reading, as we have mentioned before, as well. And then another key component is the personal statement. Now, this is the personal essay that all 5 universities of the UCAS application will receive, but is one singular essay that goes to all 5 of them. And I think you need to outline your interest in law and relevant experiences in a way that kind of convinces the university, not that you would be a good lawyer, but that you would make for a good law student, right? Amana, do you want to tell us a little bit about what your personal statement talked about?
Yeah, so I think my personal statement, I divided it very systematically because it was only a very short word count. So I talked about why I was interested in the law, how my IB subjects had helped me gain transferable skills that I think would help me in law, as well as any extracurricular activities I'd done. I done an NGO, I'd co-founded an NGO, I'd started a female empowerment club in my school, which isn't exactly related to the law. So the red pen really helped me apply the transferable skills I'd learned from that, leadership and organization and time management, and apply it to how I would make a good case for being a good law student at the university I wanted to go to. So I think my biggest advice would definitely be to start early with the profile building, which is something the red pen told me to do, because that's how you really showcase your personality and why you would stand out and be a good fit for that university.
Okay, that's really good advice. Thank you. Okay, so we'll keep that in mind with the personal statement. And then Oxford and Cambridge are 2 universities that, in addition to the LNAT and the personal statement and strong academic performance overall, will also have an interview. One thing that we have not mentioned here is that the application requirement also requires a letter of recommendation from your school counselor. right? That kind of goes hand in hand with your personal statement and everything else that you have spoken about in your profile, and about your overall academic prowess and what you are like as a student in general, in academics and otherwise, right? Are you a team player? Are you somebody who takes initiative, and those sort of personable skills that also kind of are complemented in the letter of recommendation. So that is also something very important. Whether you're applying for law or any other subject in the UK, it is important that you start building a relationship and a rapport with your counselor who will be writing this letter of recommendation, and is aware of kind of your activities, the breadth of your activities, and what you're doing inside and outside of school. Okay, so let's talk about the LNAT in a little bit of knowledge. So again, as you guys are students that will be applying for law, they do not expect you to have the knowledge of the law already. So it does not test your knowledge of the law. What it does test is your verbal reasoning skills. It is, how do you reason? How do you put across an argument? How are you backing it up? Are you being logical in what you are saying? Right? It is your ability to understand and interpret information. So they will give you various passages with multiple choice questions, and you have to kind of identify which of those answers kind of apply to that passage, which are correct, incorrect interpretations of what you had just read. And then you also have to have an ability to analyze information, draw conclusions, in addition to then also writing essays, because that's the second part of the LNAT test, right, Amana? You would do the multiple choice questions, and then they ask you to write a series of sample, essays. So I do have some sample essay questions for everyone here. These are the kind of things that the LNAT may test you on. How should judges be appointed? Does it matter if some animal and plant species die out? Is it right that students should contribute to their cost of their degrees? Do you agree? What disciplinary sanctions should teachers be allowed to use? And should the law require people to vote in general elections, right? I think since I have studied law too long ago, but Amana, you've done it more recently, why don't you tell us how you would tackle one of these sample essay questions?
Okay, so I think I'll tackle the first one. How should judges be appointed? And I think when I was doing a lot of my prep for the LNAT, what I understood was, as soon as I like see a question, I always like underline the key points, right? So I understand what I need to tackle when I'm answering the question. So when I come to how should judges be appointed, I would look at the keyword should, because it doesn't ask you how are judges currently appointed. It asks you how they should be. So then I would look back retrospectively at how the current judge like selection process works, and then I'd like suggest my own points. So the main thing to I think focus on when answering these kind of questions is there's no correct answer. They just want to see your like reasoning skills, your like ability to break down the question and really like support your points with evidence. So then when I would answer the question, I'd like mention points such as I believe that there should be like merit-based selection of judges, and that there should be maybe like a suggestion of an independent like judicial panel to select the judges. But I think the key thing that I would point out in any of my answers is that I want like the key principles of the judicial process to remain intact. Like there should be accountability, there should be transparency, and there should also be diversity in the like selection of judges, because that's important to upholding the law. So that's what I would do. I would follow like a peel pattern when answering. For each paragraph, I'd like suggest a point, then I'd back it with evidence based on maybe any real life example that I know, and then I'd analyze that and then I'd link it back to the question.
Okay, that's really good advice. Thanks. So yeah, I see from what you're saying that it is important to kind of put forward a suggestion and then kind of back it up as to why you have. And I think that is where the next bit of information comes in, why profile building is so important, right? You not only need that profile building to kind of impress the admissions committee, but also so that you develop these skills that will help you be successful with the LNAT and your future studies as a lawyer. So here are some of the profile building activities that we recommend that students consider doing. So the universities like the University of Oxford and Cambridge, they have suggested reading lists on their website that they give. It is a very comprehensive list. It is overwhelming to look at. The Red Pen's advice would be is to go through the titles that they have provided, pick and choose the ones that kind of interest you, and then kind of tackle those and start reading those and start making a note, keeping journals of things that you have found interesting that you've picked up on when you're reading them. We also do not necessarily recommend that you have to read the entire book. It is okay to focus on certain chapters and then kind of build your knowledge through news channels, through YouTube, through extra reading in various platforms, and kind of put all that knowledge together. This interest and the reading list will also help you in your future interview, as well as give you material to talk about in your personal statement, right? It is also extremely important to stay up to date with legal developments around the world, but especially in the UK. I have often had students come to me at the Red Pen, and I ask them if they are from India, for example. Tell me 2 big legal developments that have happened in the last 2 years in India, and I usually get a blank answer, like a blank stare. No one knows. So it kind of really does, again, that is a concerning sign, because it shows that you do not actually have the passion for law or enthusiasm for studying it, if you are not aware of what's going on around the world. So to do that, subscribing to legal journals, following the news is extremely important. There are also legal publications such as the Law Society Gazette, the New Law Journal, that you can look at, and also writing competitions that, again, as Amana mentioned, to be able to write these 4,000-word essays, and kind of also logically put forward your arguments, such as the John Locke essay competition that we have here. And of course, if it is available to you, doing an internship or shadow opportunity at a law firm or a legal aid clinic or an NGO would be extremely good, valuable experience as well. That will not only develop your knowledge of certain legal aspects, but also your experience of working with others, working in a team, kind of liaising, and other personable traits that the universities like to see their students to have. Anything else, Amana, you would suggest adding here that maybe I've missed, or in hindsight you wish you had done?
Maybe just referring back to keeping up to date with the legal developments. I think I focused a lot on, having extracurricular activities and internships, but I didn't really recognize how important knowing, the news was. Because even now, when I apply for internships at law firms, they really stress on the importance of having a commercial awareness, especially if you want to be a solicitor.
No, that's okay. Okay, great.
If I could add in here, one thing that, successful candidates have also done is, like you said, having that journal, writing down, maybe you don't have to be abreast about everything that's going on in the world, but if you saw that there was a ruling that really caught your eye, cool. What were some interesting points about that ruling that really that was what caught your eye, that's what made it interesting to you, and you want to look into more about it. So even if you just go in the base level and you're like, oh, I like this point, and maybe you do a little bit more research, that also will help you when it comes to your application.
Okay, thanks, Evita. I think one other thing that I should mention is that the legal profession can be very stressful. It is long hours very often. So in addition to building your profile in line with an interest in law and a passion for law, it is important for students to have other extracurricular activities as well that kind of also showcase an ability for them to de-stress. For them, whether it's music, whether it is playing a sport, something that kind of keeps them grounded and keeps them going and prevent them from burning out. So in addition to these, if you are, if you are interested in playing basketball, or you're swimming, or you're a flutist or a violinist, or maybe your hobby, your passion is photography, these are all valid hobbies to have and can very well go onto your application as well, right? Again, they also show more breadth in the student's personality, which again is what not only universities are looking for, but even employers will be looking for when you apply for internships and jobs. All right, okay. So I'm going to talk about the requirements for the University of Cambridge, which are quite similar to what I've already covered, except for the application timelines being slightly different. And although this says the University of Cambridge, the University of Oxford pretty much has the same application requirements. So the biggest difference to note is that if you're applying to Oxford or Cambridge, the application deadline is the 15th of October of the application year versus the general UCAS deadline for other subjects other than medicine and veterinary science is the 26th of January, the following year. So again, this goes back to what Amana was saying and what Evita was saying, that it is extremely important to start on your applications early. You need the time to be able to develop your profile, to be able to talk about your personal statement, to have time to plan and prep for the LNAT exam as well. And if you do not start early, you will find yourself scrambling and struggling to put forward a competitive application. For Oxford and Cambridge, because they have a college system, it is a specific college that you will choose to apply to. So Cambridge has 29 colleges. Some of them are women only. So your application goes to that specific college. And it is not the general law faculty or department that will be reading your application. So it is up to the college to determine whether you're a right fit and whether they want to apply, whether they want to admit you or not. Having said that, they also have a winter pool system. So where all the colleges pool in their applications, if one college isn't able to admit you, they may refer your application to this pool where other colleges can pick it up and be like, okay, let us see if maybe you're a better fit for us. So regardless of which college you are eventually admitted to, all Cambridge law students take the same lectures, and they have the same course options available to them. That is universal for all the law students at Cambridge. Of course, as mentioned before, academic excellence, the ability and potential and enthusiasm for studying law is something that they want demonstrated in their personal statement, in the letter of recommendation, and then finally in the interview as well. Now, the interview, again, does not test you on knowledge of the law specifically. They are kind of testing you on the skills that the LNAT already tests you on. And that is, what is your thought process like? Can you think logically? Can you back up your answers? I will give you an example of a potential interview question is, they may give you a clause or a statute to kind of interpret. So let's say they say, a person is guilty of murder if he intends the death of someone else and that person dies, right? And they will ask you here that what is your interpretation of the word intent in this question? Or they will give you a scenario. They will be like, okay, Tony was really angry with his girlfriend and decides that he wants to put poison in her tea, which is effective only 0.005% of the time. The fact that he added this poison to his tea, does that mean that he intends her murder? And then is he guilty of murder as per the clause that has been given to you? Right? Tony is angry with a friend or a colleague or a coworker and takes a gun and in his anger shoots his leg. Now, the injury to the leg lands the colleague in the hospital where he's being treated. And as a result of the treatment in the hospital and some complication that happens, the colleague dies. Now, is Tony responsible for his death? Because Tony is why the colleague was in the hospital to begin with, right? Now, again, these are very situational questions and scenarios to which there is no right or wrong answer. But what they want to see at Cambridge and Oxford is how you are backing up what you are saying. So if you say, for example, that the colleague ended up in the hospital, however, they died because of a complication of the surgery that took place, and Tony shot the leg, means he could not have intended his death because he shot the leg, then he's not guilty of murder. But you need to give up that backup and that reasoning, and that interview prep is extremely important, and it's something that we help our students do very comprehensively early on, starting all the way from the summer to ensure that they're prepared for this sort of thinking and reasoning. And extremely important is talking about your thought process aloud, because otherwise your interviewer or your panel of interviewers don't know what it is or how you are arriving at a certain conclusion. Right. And this advice, again, goes across all subjects, whether you're applying for computer science or engineering or history. They like to see what your thought process is. Right. Okay. So, Amana, is there anything you want to add here to, the legal scenarios or interview?
Not really, because I didn't go through the interview process, but in hindsight, looking at the kind of questions they ask it, I think it is helpful because they are similar to some of the questions you do have to answer as a first year law student.
Right, okay. And have you been doing any sort of speech and debate or mooting that you think helps?
I haven't yet. I've been involved with the Law Society and the Bar Society, but yeah, we have a mooting society and a debate society and a public speaking society. So definitely for people who want to maybe go the barrister route, I think that's an important thing to do because it looks good on like job applications.
Yeah, so that is a good profile building activity we should have also mentioned is speech and debate, Model United Nations, anywhere where you're talking in a public sphere and where you can develop the confidence and your ability to speak clearly. And again, your verbal reasoning skills kind of are honed as a result of it. So great. Okay, so it's time for questions. I see someone is asking about the JD route as well, which is more specific to the US. So you don't do that at the undergraduate level. Again, I do recommend that you get in touch with us if you would like more information about that. Another question is, are all the years of studies done in the UK itself, or can it be carried out, for example, in the UK and France? So most of the UK undergraduate degrees that are 3 years are structured in a way that you are studying all 3 years in the UK itself. If a university is giving you the option of doing a year abroad, Amana, does University of Nottingham give you an option of doing a year abroad?
Yeah, University of Nottingham does, but that would be when you're applying, like when you like select your degree in the UCAS application, have to apply for the 4-year one. And I
Yeah.
think you have the option to do it somewhere in Europe, maybe in Amsterdam.
Okay. And if you are doing the year abroad, it's usually the 3rd year that students go abroad. So you
Yes.
your first year and your 2nd year at the UK university on campus. For the 3rd year is when you step out, and then you're back for your final 4th year in the UK. All right. Okay, all right. So a recording of the webinar will be shared. Does the college offer internships for international students? So Amana, you're an international student. I'll let you take that question.
I wouldn't say that they like specifically give internships for international students, but they do like help a lot when like letting you know which ones are available. Like most law firms in the UK do have first year schemes, which aren't exactly internships. They're like just a few days where you get to go to the law firm's office and see how they work and maybe attend like some profile like some skill building sessions. But they are very competitive because it's like almost like applying for university all over again. They require an essay and a whole application where you list out all your previous internships or any extracurriculars you've done, and then they have an online aptitude test that you take, and then an interview if you like progress ahead.
Okay, thanks. The next question is, are the law courses 3 or 4 years? The typical degree is structured to be 3 years, LLB. Having said that, there are various other ways to get an LLB. You can do a conversion course, which takes only 1 year, but that option is only available to you after you already have an undergraduate degree in another subject. You may also do a graduate LLB. Again, that's a postgraduate option. And there is also an accelerated LLB that certain universities offer, which means that you get your law degree in 2 years instead of 3 years. All right. So to improve my profile, can I do research projects to show my enthusiasm in law? So as we discussed, you can very well do research projects, your writing ability, the depth of your research, all of that will go to make you a more competitive applicant. But I will again specify that the research project does not necessarily need to be in law itself, right? It can be a history, it can be English. Students who are doing the International Baccalaureate often do their extended essay in various subjects. So they all go to build your skills in this field. Which is the best law college in the UK? Well, I think there are different metrics that by which you can gauge which is the best law college in the UK. However, the Red Pen's advice would not be to go by rankings. You often have to find which is a good fit university for you. You know, even something as simple as, are you okay to be on a rural campus away from a big city, or would you rather be in, you know, a city like Manchester or London where all the hustle and bustle is happening? Amana, tell us a little bit about how the University of Nottingham is.
So I'd say I feel like University of Nottingham is a good mix between a rural campus and a city campus, because we have like quite like a green campus where on the outskirts of Nottingham, but Nottingham is not such a big city. I think it's maybe a 20-minute bus ride to the city center, so it's quite accessible. And there are like small towns nearby, so you have all the like basic amenities that you'd want in a city, but you also have the luxury of having a lot of open spaces.
Okay, and I will tell you about my experience at the University of Warwick, which is much more of an isolated campus. It is situated actually in Coventry, not really in Warwick, and you know, a short distance from Birmingham, but not short enough that you can go to Birmingham every day. So I found that a lot of my cohort often found that isolating. They found that the campus was dead on weekends. So it really kind of depends on your personal choice. So I would look at the law ranking. I would look at the reputation of you know, of the university overall, as well as in the subject of law, and as well as their job placements. But I will say that in the UK, almost every UK university, in fact, all of them will have recruitment fairs, will have employers coming down to do you know, events and kind of actively recruit off campus. And so we really do recommend that when these things happen, students are ready with a resume or CV, and they're going from booth to booth and having conversations and making themselves be heard, exchanging their CV, and that will also help. So I think someone has asked me that the UK now allows for work for 2 years after completion of a course. So how well are international students placed, and what are the job opportunities like? Again, just adding on to my answer, to my previous answer, it is extremely important when you go to university that you are active while you are there. It is not okay for you to go to university, have a good time, attend your lectures, study for the exams, come back every holiday, not do anything, go back, do the same thing again, right? As Amana said, she's already part of the Bar Society and the Corporate Society. We actively engaged in the career opportunities that are there, you know, apply for internships and placements, and what you do when you get there will actually feed into how successful you are with getting a job afterwards. For 2025 applications, when should you take the LNAT by? So the LNAT registration opens on the 1st of August, and you can only take it one time in that application year. So if you are applying for Oxford or Cambridge, I would recommend taking the exam in August or September itself, so that you have the results for the October 15th application deadline. If you are not applying to Oxford or Cambridge, then you have up until the 26th of January to take the LNAT test. Again, I will repeat that you can only take it one time in any single application year. Will it be easy for me to do my postgrad in a UK university if I do my LLB in India? Yes, as long as you have a postgraduate degree from a recognized Indian university, and you meet the other application requirements of your postgrad course, yes, you can quite easily do a postgrad in the UK. How can one apply for scholarships? So unfortunately, the UK is not very big on scholarships for international students or even for local students. They have funding and bursaries available for a lot of UK nationals, but the scholarships are rare and extremely difficult to kind of get for that reason. So if you are applying to the UK, I would not rely on a scholarship from the UK university itself. All right, this accelerated program is 2 years after grade 12. No, the accelerated law LLB will be after you have an undergraduate degree. Unless the university specifically also offers an accelerated program, then yes, you can do it after grade 12 as well. So overall, it's called a graduate LLB, which means you need the undergraduate degree, but there are a few universities that do offer the accelerated program at the undergraduate level as well. Are summer schools and online internships helpful for securing admissions in good universities? Absolutely. Again, this goes back to showing motivation and passion for the subject that you are interested in studying, not just for law. It also helps you develop, if you are doing an in-person summer school, other sort of skills such as, again, communication, working on group projects, living independently, for example, all good key qualities to be building, as well as then your knowledge of the subject itself in which you're doing the summer school. Online internships are, now that COVID has passed, I think in-person internships would be preferred. But if that is not accessible, it is better to do something than to do nothing. So again, we can help with a lot of profile building activities and ideas based on your individual circumstances if you come and speak to us. For somebody who wishes to work and live in India, would you still recommend studying in a UK university? I would say that if you are looking to study law in a UK university, but you plan to be in India, then no, I don't think there is an advantage of studying law in the UK. I would recommend doing law in India itself so that you're not coming back studying all over again, getting used to the Indian legal system ethos and studying for the bar examination. If you're doing any other subject, then if you're doing finance or economics or math or computer science, engineering, history, then yes, I would not say it's more or less advantageous to be either in India or the UK. Again, it depends on what you do with your degree and what you do with your time spent abroad. Or if you think you're going to be more successful getting more internships, leverage your network back home in India, then stay in India and study there. And India, as an emerging destination for higher education, has some fantastic options and universities. Again, we help several students every year apply to universities like Ashoka, Flame, Kriya. There are so many, and the competitiveness of these universities is almost on par with UK universities, if not more in some cases. For Ashoka University, for example, their interview process is actually very rigorous, and as well are the academic requirements. So I would almost say that it is as difficult, if not more, to get into an Ashoka versus one UK university. Okay, if Evita, maybe you can jump in for this one, because I don't know off the top of my head in Indian rupees, the average course fee for UK universities.
So it does vary, but I believe it's around 30 lakhs per annum, ish. And then that's not including your living costs, which will vary kind of based on whether you're in a big city, small city, rural town. So if you're in London, you can expect to be spending about, I think an additional like 10 lakh on just like your living and everything that you're doing. It goes down significantly if you're in a smaller city. Nottingham is not a smaller city in the UK, but by Indian standards, it is a smaller city. But yes, even something like a Nottingham, the prices will reduce significantly if you're studying there and living there versus in London.
Amana,
would you happen to know what your course fees are?
Yes, I do actually. So it is 24,000 pounds for the year. So I would assume like 25-ish lakhs. And for accommodation, I live in catered accommodation. So for the year, it is around 10 lakhs. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. If any of you are interested, you would know that most UK universities offer you on-campus accommodation if you are at a campus university in your first year. And then on the second year, you are usually required to move off campus. And then in the third year, you have the option of moving back on campus, right? Okay. The next question is, if I apply to the University of Edinburgh, will I have to do a conversion course to practice in London? No, you will not need to do a conversion course. It is important to note that a lot of Scottish degrees in Scotland are 4 years instead of 3 years. So again, if we're talking about cost, you need to keep that in mind, that it is an additional year of paying fees and studying and all of that. But it is a recognized legal degree that is valid in Scotland, England, Wales, Northern Ireland. Right. So, okay. After the LLB and LLM, what's the next degree? So there is no next degree unless you decide to do a master's in something else, in another field of law, or in another subject altogether entirely. You may even go on and not do any further studying and just continue working. So it is not necessary that you need to even have an LLM. Often an LLB plus work experience is enough to kind of offer you a career opportunity in law or otherwise. If you have not taken law-related subjects in the IBDP program, would you still be eligible to apply for law? Again, as we mentioned earlier, Amana and I, there are no required subjects for if you wish to pursue law. So if you have not taken anything that's law-related, in the IBDP, that's okay, because you will be required to have taken English anyway, whether at higher level or standard level. So that already gives you the base foundational skills that you would need. Other than that, if you've done economics, that is relevant as well. If you have done history, if you have done math, if you've done business management, there are components of each of these subjects that we can help you identify and leverage in your application and your personal statement. So we know how to help you relate those specific modules and subjects that you have studied and kind of make them relevant to your law application. And where we find that there is a gap, we help you identify those gaps through profile building and say, okay, you have XYZ subjects. However, we do not see that you have this specific skill. Why don't you consider doing this over the summer, or doing this over your winter break or your Easter break? And then that will make your application more competitive. Would an internship at the firm of a blood relative be considered as valid as one anywhere else? Yes, any kind of internship, as long as you are taking it and doing it in sincerity and actually trying to learn from the internship in terms of both your knowledge and personable skills, is as valid as applying anywhere else. UK universities don't necessarily need to know that the internship is at your uncle's or aunt's or family friends law firm or other sort of firm. So yeah, it is important that you're able to talk about it in your personal statement and what you have learned and what you've learned about being a corporate lawyer through that journey, and whether it has, the experience has resonated with your long-term career goals or not. And if you can do that, then yes, any sort of internship experience is valid. Is the study of international law covered? What we recommend is you look at the university modules and the elective modules that are offered. International law is not a core subject, as we had discussed, whereas EU law is. So if international law is offered by the university, then the student will have an option to take it as an elective in year 2 or year 3 of their law degree. Can I do my postgrad in the UK but come back to India to work? Is it recommended? I'm not sure which specific subject this relates to, if it is law related or not. I will repeat again, if you are planning to study law in the UK, then again, in India, you do need to take the bar examination in India. But if you do a postgrad in any other subject, it is going to be from a recognized prestigious UK university. So absolutely, you can come back with that degree and apply for a job in India. After class 12, say if I work or intern in a law firm for a year, will it help in admissions process? Yes, of course. You can take a gap year to work in a law firm, and not the advantage of that is not only will you have a more competitive application, but you will also kind of, if you are on the fence about whether law is the right career path or trajectory for you, then it kind of goes to be a trial period. And your experience can inform your future decision whether you decide to go forward with it or not. Do you recommend gap years to students to take internships at law firms, or just to start university straight after high school? Again, the same answer. I would say that a gap year can be advantageous in many, many ways. It gives a student, often students find themselves burnt out after grade 12 after, 4 years of rigorous high school preparation, and this breathing space, giving them a little bit of time to just kind of decompress and then focus on certain passions and start exploring various career options is a much better way to go into your undergraduate studies than forcing yourself to choose a subject for the heck of it and getting started with studying. I will at this point also mention that in the UK, if you change your mind about what you have decided and opted to study in year one, the only way for you to really change is to drop out and reapply the year after. So in these scenarios, again, I would say that taking a gap year is extremely advantageous, and the taboo that Indian families often have with a gap year should be something that we reconsider, and would say that you should think about in a different light, because there are benefits. Is math AAHL in IB required for an application of law? I mean, it doesn't say law, but if it is for law, no, math AAHL is not required. If you're going to be applying for a STEM subject, science, technology, engineering, math related, then yes, you will require math at the higher level. Does taking business management HL make colleges look down upon your application? No, absolutely not. The International Baccalaureate offers business management because it is a valid subject and because it teaches students various commercial knowledge, information about the way the world works, how businesses operate, how money is made, and so no, colleges do not look down on your application because you have taken business. Is a UK law degree valid in India to work? Again, a UK law degree is recognized by India, but you will need to take the bar examination in India to be able to work there. In India, would you recommend studying at the national law universities or at private law schools like Ashoka? Again, you have to weigh the pros and cons of both options. I would not say that one is better than the other. You have to choose for yourself what is a better fit. In terms of reputation and the degree gained at the end of it, I think that they're quite comparable on equal footing. What would be considered as a good period of doing an internship? 2 to 3 months. Evita, you can jump in here as well, but my experience tells me that there is no specific time period for you to do an internship. If you have gained or learned everything you would in 2 weeks or 3 weeks of your 3-month internship, maybe you are better off doing an internship at 2 different locations. It might be a firm, it might be a veterinary clinic, it may be a legal aid clinic, or an NGO, or you're engaging in community service, or you're working with an art curator because you're interested in art, or an architecture firm. If you are getting enough skills, there is a benefit of sustaining one internship for a long period of time, but it is important that you are learning as your period goes by, right? Would you?
Yeah. I think we usually tell our students there's no set amount of time. I personally prefer being there for at least part-time for a month. How many hours that is, however you kind of figure that out. So that could be maybe you work for 2 weeks, you go 2 weeks and you're there full-time for the all 8 hours, or you're just doing 4 hours a week and you kind of spread it out over a month. So you can play around with however that fits in your schedule. But I think the key thing about an internship, like Shraddha said, it's what are the learnings that you're getting from it is, okay, I saw this, lawyer do X, Y, and Z. I saw a paralegal, submit these things, and this is what I learned, and I got to support and do research in this area and sat in the library for so many hours. So I think the more key part is less the time and more you and, taking notes about what skills have you learned, what responsibilities you've been given, what have you observed. I think that is the more key part of whatever internship that you do. It is good if you're able to sustain it, but it's not completely necessary. And I think even doing one, like Shraddha said, at like a law clinic will give you that differentiation in the types of different law that's there. I'd also like to just quickly jump in on the last question about private schools where you could study law. Ashoka doesn't actually offer law as a program, but OP Jindal does. But just, piggybacking off what Shraddha said, it's completely up to you, whatever has the program that you resonate with, that offers you everything that you're looking for. I think those are the sort of programs that you should be focusing on versus whether it's, a public or a private university here in India.
Great. Thank you, Evita. This question is incomplete. Do law internships really help? Many people I know who have taken internships at law firms say, and it's incomplete. I will speak about my personal experience. I did a law internship having graduated from the UK in a law firm in Mumbai, and I found that was an eye-opener for me. And that is, if any of you are wondering why I'm at the Red Pen and not working as a lawyer, it's because one of those work experiences that I had done was kind of showed me that the practice of law was not as interesting to me as the study of law was. There was a big difference in the cultural ethos at an Indian law firm versus what I was used to having done abroad. And it took a lot of adjustment. And, I went to small sessions court where a lot of the conversations and the communication was happening in Marathi. I didn't know any Marathi. So I really do believe that any sort of experience is valuable experience, whether it boosts your application or it gives you some other insight of what you may be better at, what you might be more interested in. I do think internships are extremely helpful if you can get them. If we were to visit UK in the school summer break, do schools offer any college tours? So as far as I know, I don't have specific dates, but several UK universities have open days. You need to check on their website for what those days are. My personal advice and the Red Pen's personal advice would be that visiting these universities in the summer break does not really give you a true essence of what the university is like during term time. You might find that the campus is a lot dead or a lot quieter. The students are not really around. You don't really get much of an idea of what the what's the word? I want to use the word vibe of the university is. Let's not evoke like what the energy, what the presence of the college is. How busy is the library when you go there? Do you feel motivated to study, or is it really dead because you only see 5 people there in the summer? So I do understand that there are difficulties in being able to travel to the UK or anywhere else when school is on. But if you are able to plan your travels around the time when term time is on in the UK, then that would be the preferred time to go and then do a college tour at a UK university.
If I can jump in here, Diwali is a good time to go and check it out because it also gets cold in the UK. So it's a good time for you to figure out if you can handle the cold at some of the more northern universities. So Diwali is I would say, a good time to kind of go and check out a lot of these universities.
Right. Okay. I'm taking the LNAT at the end of 2024. However, Indian universities do not consider the LNAT as an eligible entry test. I will have to take an entrance in India as well, or do they accept it? No. So again, we don't specialize in law admissions in India. But from what we do know is that the national law universities and various other ones all have their own entrance tests for law. So if they don't accept the LNAT, they have the CSAT, LSAT, and a couple of others. You will have to check with the universities that you intend to apply to. Okay, the next question follows on very similarly. Is it possible to prepare for the LNAT and law entrance tests, CLAT, LSAT required in India in case we are unsure whether we want to study? Yes, absolutely. Again, like I said, the LNAT is not testing you on actual knowledge, only your skills in certain and your aptitude in answering those questions. So there isn't content that you need to kind of rote learn as you may have to for the CLAT or the LSAT. So it is possible for a student to do both.
I would just jump in to say that I did prepare for the CLAT as well as the LNAT while I was doing my final year, but I did find it a little difficult to balance both along with my studies because the CLAT did happen in December, which was the same time as we had mocks. So it was a little difficult. So I mean, I would take that into consideration, but it's not impossible to do. You could definitely do it if you have like good time management skills.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's very helpful to know, Amana. Yeah, I should have mentioned you need to also balance out your school curriculum and your course load there as well. What about May? I guess the May question, yeah, follows on whether it's a good time to visit the UK university. Yes, May would be a good time to go. Which reputed law firms, specifically in Mumbai, provide internships to pre-grad students? I'm currently finishing AS levels. Could you also shed light on the application? Yeah. So you're gonna have to check with the law firms themselves because of the rules for them to advertise their services. There aren't really often, they don't really publicly mention it on their website. So it really will be a case where you need to contact the law firms themselves directly and see what opportunities do they have and what the application process is. We don't have one uniform answer to that question. So yeah, I think that ends the questions and answers that are there so far.
Great. Thank you so much, Shraddha and Amina. It was lovely to hear you guys speak about your experiences and sort of what to expect when you apply to these competitive universities in the UK. If you guys have any other questions, Shraddha, can you just go to the next slide?
Yes, I
Yeah.
don't know. There is an next slide.
Yeah. So if you guys have any other questions, please feel free to book an appointment. We're happy to get on a call with you for 15 minutes to just sort of run through any of the questions that you have. If you are looking to join the Red Pen and maybe do a little bit of starting early, you can also book an appointment with our sales team to learn more about that process. And we would be happy to answer any of your questions there as well. And we're happy to go into a little bit more personal sort of answers if you guys have any questions that are specifically related to your scenario. I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation. It was lovely having you guys here on a Friday night. Thank you so much for taking the time, and yeah, have a good evening and enjoy your weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you all, and thank you, Amana, for joining us today.
No, thank you for having me.